welcome to this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have Dr. Jack Stoltzfus. He's a psychologist and America's launch coach whose mission is to help parents successfully launch their children on the path to adulthood while maintaining a caring bond with them. Welcome to the show, Dr. Jack.
Yeah, thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
You are welcome. Welcome to the show. Welcome to India in this online form, Dr. Jack. And I'm sorry, not just in India, but a lot of people across the globe, especially in the US, will benefit from what we are going to talk right now. We'll be talking about how one can launch their children into adulthood. We'll talk about that. But before we come to this, let's understand a bit about your journey, about your background, Dr. Jack, so that listeners know a bit more about who they are listening to.
Sure. Yeah, well, I got started on this particular interest area. Really have to go back to my childhood and my relationship with my father, which was, it was not estranged in that we had conversation, but it was a strained relationship. And so that led me into my dissertation and my PhD dissertation and trying to understand what healthy separation from your family looks like, emotional separation. And then fast forward, I'm a psychologist now, and I've been doing this for 30, 40 years. And I'm a parent of young adults. And so I began to focus on more the parent side of the equation, the relationship between the parent and the young adult. So that's been my focus in the last 10, 12 years, and really helping parents be able to kind of, as you described it initially, launch their young adult into self-sufficient, responsible adulthood, but at the same time maintaining a caring relationship. So it's not just kick them out the door, whether they like it or not. It's really, every parent wants to have that continuing relationship. So that's really what my goal is, to help that process go smoothly.
Right. So let's understand this whole launching part. Whose responsibility is it that adults launches himself or herself, or is it the parents' responsibility to do so? Help us understand.
That's a good question, because somebody did push back on me, said, well, isn't the kids' responsibility to launch themselves? And I would say, yeah, I mean, it's kind of a 50-50 proposition. The parents certainly play a role and can, hang on too long to the young adult and make it more difficult for the young adult to leave. And sometimes the young adult hangs on too long. So I think it's both parties have to participate in this. My focus has been more on the parents and helping them let go in a positive way. So,
right. So I want to understand, in the US, it's a bit different than what it is in India. In the US, if you are staying with your parents, then after age of 18, then that is something not seen in a very very good way. People should go out and find things for themselves, live independently. So if they do that, where is the problem? Why do you mean that they are not going out and only keep on staying with their parents?
Well, I mean, you're bringing up a great issue on perspective here, because I was looking forward to talking about this as an international challenge. So in the U.S., over 50% of young adults live with one or both parents, and not all of those young adults are stuck, but they are at home. It's the highest percentage of young adults living at home. And in the U.S., the stereotype and kind of bias is that you shouldn't be living with your family. You should move out by the time you're 18 or at least 21. Now, it is a problem in other countries as well. Japan has a fairly significant problem in this regard. They have a word for it. It's called hikikimura, which means shut in, or a young adult who's at home. And there, they don't even leave the room sometimes. They may go out for groceries, but it's a significant problem in the country because obviously, they're not having sex and making babies, so they got a problem in the country in that regard. And then there's also uh, there's the retirement age, mandatory retirement age of 60. So there's a workforce issue going on right there now. So I think in Japan there's a desire to get those kids out into the workforce. And you look, and so Japan, about 70% of the young adults are at home in Japan. That's 1829. Now, looking at India, I looked at the statistics in India. It's about 70% there too, and about 80% in the urban areas. But you have a different model in India. You have this multi-generational model where these young adults live at home, but they contribute, they're working, they're going to school, they're helping out with the family. So that's not a failure to launch situation, in my opinion. Where you live doesn't have anything to do with whether you failed to launch. It's whether you're self-sufficient, responsible, and you have a relationship with your parents.
So, Dr. Jack, see, let's look at it again from both perspectives. So, in the US, if you stay with your parents beyond 18, then people may ask you. In India, if you don't stay with your parents at any point in time, until unless the situation is such, you go out of town because you need to study,
Yeah.
or if you don't stay, that it leads to a lot of questions. The society will ask, the people will ask, everyone will ask, why are you not staying with your parents? Especially if you are single, if you are no. Oh, so that's not, nobody decided about this. This is where the way Indian culture is, and that's the way the US culture is. So I want to understand, and in India you don't find that as a problem. Means everyone knows what they have to earn for themselves, they have to earn for the family. If you are getting married, then you have to earn in that way. But in terms of the launching part, you might take a bit of time on the launch pad at any place in the world you are, but you launch yourself, or others will help you launch, and it is a very comfortable launch. Or you have to egg someone on. You have to put boosters if required. So where is the problem? Means why is it a problem in terms of if children are staying with the parents, but why are they not launching? If they want to stay with parents, maybe it's a new beginning somewhere else, or is it a failure on their part? Why do they see it as a failure? Do you mean to say that they are not working at all? They just want to be with their parents because they won't need to earn? Then it can be a problem. Help us understand from that perspective, especially if someone in India is listening to it. He will find it very strange. Why? What's the harm? He's only 18. Let him live his life, he or her. Let them live their life. Let them work as per, and then they will take care of things.
Yeah, that's funny. It's just the opposite issue. Why are they not living at home? Here it's why are they living at home? In fact, parents are, I talk about it as a collusion between the parent and the young adult. The parents don't want to tell their friends and family they have a 21-year-old, 22-year-old living at home, playing video games in the basement. And the young adult doesn't want to tell his friends that he's living with mommy and daddy either. So it's kind of a silent epidemic here. But it's this kind of culture bias that you're 18 or 21, you need to be going out of the house. And I certainly grew up with that message. But that message has changed over time now. I think parents have become more invested in the success and happiness of their kids. And if they're not successful and happy, the parents are going to put more effort and attention into that. But out of that 52% of young adults living at home, I would say the majority, it's a positive situation. It's not they're going to school, they're working, they're getting along with the parents. But there's a certain percentage of young adults who are stuck at home. And, and the pandemic was an accelerator of that because 32% of college students returned home during the pandemic. And some of those have never left. That's 4 or 5 years ago. So there's a certain segment of the population that continues to have problems. And sometimes it's depression, anxiety. Sometimes it's illicit drug use, problems that may occur, and the parents are hesitant to push them out. Well, you need to get out on your own, and so they kind of um, take care of the kids in a way, and they don't allow the kids to kind of grow up. I always say no's not a four-letter word, and parents need to be able to say no at times to their kids. You know.
Right. Is it because they are staying there, not because they don't want to work, but they feel emotionally better? That, okay, I'm staying with my parents, so there is a certain degree of, in terms of emotional support. Even for parents, it
Oh,
might be emotional support because
oh
on the
yeah.
other side, you have got this empty nest problem. So both ways, parents are having this problem. If they go, then it's emptiness. If they stay, again there is a different thing. So have we looked at the emotional part of it, that both sides are
Oh, sure.
actually, it's not about the money part or the earning part, but actually without saying, people are actually liking that emotional connection
Oh,
that
yeah,
is coming
absolutely.
coming along with this.
Over 60% of parents like the fact that their young adult lives at home. So they're not
So that's a
bothered
good
by it.
thing.
Again, it's a smaller percentage, but it's significant. And over 50% of young adults consider one or the other of their parent to be their best friend. And that figure is fairly similar from the adult side. So you have this kind of emotional connection that's continued to go on between the parents and the young adult, which if everything's going well and they're working, that works well. If it's a contentious situation, then that, gets to be more of a problem. So, but there is more emotional. My impression is that over time, and really my generation, the boomer generation, have become more invested in the success and happiness of the kids, and no matter what their age. And so there's hanging on. There's maybe helping too much at times. When the person needs to get out and get a job, maybe we're well, it's okay if you don't get a job for a while, and pretty soon that keeps extending. So, to be fair though, economic conditions have really created a problem here, and I suspect it may be true in India too. I mean, housing is so expensive. These kids come
Right.
out with about $42,000 in college debt. Now they can't. Houses with buying a home is out of reach, and then they get into an apartment, and the cost there is extreme. I have a young adult that I'm working with. She's a nurse. She's paying $2,000 a month to this apartment complex that she lives in, and you know how can you save when you're spending that much money on your apartment? You can't save for a house either. So some of these kids are at home saving money. They're working, saving money so they can move out or get a house eventually too. But so it's not just the emotional attachment, factor that plays into this. There are other factors. So
Right. So why do you call it a silent epidemic? Where does it become a problem? And who is responsible? Then if parents are responsible, how can they correct it? They don't want to cut the emotional cord. They just want to let them go free so that they can fly.
yeah. So and what I think that letting go is there's a fear there. They want to maintain that relationship, so they're concerned about pushing too hard, and particularly if there might be anxiety or depression or something like that going on too. And like I said, the uh, silent epidemic part of this is they don't want to talk about this because it's viewed that there's something wrong with you as parents if you have a 21-year-old, 25-year-old or something living at home. In fact, most parents are probably okay with the early 20s, but when that young adult's now 26, 27, the alarm bells go off for parents in this country. There's something wrong here. This person needs to be out there on their own. So,
Okay, so basically it's the economic reason. So they can push for that, that listen, we do not have any problem with your staying or anything, but you need to be standing on your own feet. That is what they
absolutely.
say in India. They stand on your own feet. earn for yourself, and then be happy about it, you know. And so why is it difficult to communicate to about this part, Dr. Jack?
I'm saying it again.
I said, yeah. I said, is it difficult to communicate this part that you need to be standing on your own feet, that you need to work, you need to earn for yourself, not for us, but for your own thing? You must utilize your skills, keep yourself employable, do whatever you want, but keep yourself in the job market.
Oh, absolutely. And parents are giving that message all the time. But if you've got some young adult that's anxious and depressed, and I had one kid that was so fearful of even applying for jobs. He was fearful of rejection. He's 32 years old living at home. And so his mother, this is a little story. His mother had a friend who worked for the city of Minneapolis and said, "Hey, I've got a job if he wants it." And by the way, this kid was not sleeping at night. He was up all night. He wasn't bathing. He was a clear shut-in kind of situation. And this guy offered him a job. He shows up to work the first day and gets up at 7 o'clock in the morning, goes to work, and he starts to like it. And people like him. Pretty soon he's sleeping at night, getting up every morning, and now he's going on. Recently, his mom told me he just got married. So to me, him getting a job was the most therapeutic thing that happened in that situation. I was going to try to have a sleep study done with him because this guy was not sleeping at all, but getting the job turned his life around. But she was fearful. In some cases, these kids might be suicidal, and parents are afraid to push too much. Now, one of the things I tell them to do, don't push, pull. You can pull them out of the house. You can go with them to take them to a job interview. You don't do the interview. You can go do volunteer work, pull them out of the house, go to the gym if you need to work out or something. So rather than just say, get out of the house, go get a job, go to school or something, I think parents can kind of pull them out at times, and that can be helpful too. So a little different approach to it.
Right. So this is the society we live in. Suddenly you have social media, you have got all the things that keeps you awake at night, and suddenly you get hooked to them, and then you find that you have already lost on so much of valuable time. What can the parents do here? Should we fault the parents? Should we fault the kids? Because in the US, it's all again, much more individualistic society. In
Absolutely.
India, even in India, you can still use some strong words to the kids, and the kids know that they have to listen. Though even this part of the world, things are changing, but there they can't say, in India they can't say, "Listen, I've got rights and I can call the police." You say it, and the police will also give you a good one. So that's why we keep on hearing, all those cases of Indian parents there in the outside world, and suddenly somebody has talking very sternly to their kids, and their rules say that you are not doing good, that the kids needs to be taken under state custody, and that is the cultural thing. So I want to understand what can parents do there in the US.
Yeah. So, I mean, it sounds like in your culture, you're comfortable saying no, or you can't do that, or you have to do that. And the kids, the young adults will kind of comply with that in general. So, I had a situation with a young adult, 18, 19, living at home, dealing drugs. The parents said, you can't do that. He was vaping in the house, and the parents said, you can't do that. After 2 or 3 times of this happening, and he had some legal issues too. The dad said, "Pack your bag," and he took his young adult son and took him to a shelter and said, "Okay, we've done everything we can. It's up to you now. Figure out your life. You want to live with different rules than we have in our family, then that's where you have to go." But you mentioned social media, and one of the things that's happening is some of the research on loneliness. The highest segment of our society here in the United States in terms of loneliness measure is the Gen Z population. And yet they're the most wired population. They're the most social media population. So there's something missing They're not making connections with people. Just being at the at the monitor and the playing Xbox, those things isn't meeting a certain need around kind of a affiliation or connection with other people, and they're not getting out. So
Right, right, Dr. Jack. So let's look at your book and find some solutions there.
okay,
New book, the launch code, loving and letting go of our adult
yeah.
children. Who is this book for? Is it for the adults or is it for their parents?
Now this is for the parents. Usually you have your book sitting in the background. Well, I can't. There's not a place for it to sit there. So it's in
Can you
here.
show it well, please,
Yeah.
Dr.
This
Jack?
is really for the parents. That's who I'm working with at this point. Although I engage the young adult in the therapy process that I use. So, what I typically do, the typical process, meet with the parents, then I do an interview with the young adult and ask them a number of questions about, where do they want to be 5 years from now? Where do they want to be living? What do they want to be doing? And then I say, okay, what do you need to do to get there in 6 months, 3 months, in the next 2 weeks? So I lay out a plan with them, then bring that plan to the parents. The parents then respond back to that and say what they'll do to support that young adult on that 5 year plan, what they won't do because the young adult needs to stand up and do that on their own, and then what expectations they have if they're going to be living at home. But by doing that, we're working on the young adult's plan. It's not the parents' plan for the young adult, it's the young adult's plan. And we can build more of a partnership between the parents and the young adult to help the young adult move forward on their plans. And some of it may be, well, I want to live here 3 years at home and save money so I can move out and take classes or whatever. So, but it really works very well. And it's predicated on three things. One, parents love their kids and the kids love their parents. Parents want their kids to be successful and the kids want to be successful and independent. And they want the process to go smoothly. So none of these young adults disagree with that, nor do the parents. So that's the way we form this partnership based upon those assumptions, which they agree to. And that gets us away from fighting about, you're always playing video games or you don't bust your dishes back from your bedroom and all those kind of skirmishes, because I set the framework more on the future and how are we going to work together toward a future. So that's really what I describe in the book. So the book gives parents very practical steps that they can take to help their young adult move to this position of self-sufficient, responsible independence, but stay connected to the parents, because that last part's really important. And I think I would say in general the definition in this country of whether a person is launched doesn't include that last part. Are they living someplace on their own, working, being responsible? Well, then they're launched. Well, I would disagree. If they're not talking to their parents, they're cut off the relationship with the parents, or it's a very antagonistic relationship. In my definition, they would not be launched. So,
Right, right. I get it. But I want to know, during your research, during your writing, have you ever felt that several people say that, the young generation is becoming lazy because of all things they have got,
yeah.
all the technology. Have you felt it like the case in a lot of cases, or is it only maybe few or one or two here and there?
Well, there's a tendency, I think, to blame the kids. These kids are entitled. They're everybody gets a trophy kid. That we've been soft and over the years and all. So I had a situation where my oldest daughter went to college just about 5 miles away, and a month or two after she was there, she called. She said, "Dad, I didn't get to dinner tonight on time, and the dining room was closed. Can you bring a sandwich over to me?" I just about fell on the floor in laughter. I said, "You got to be kidding me." I said, "No, I'm not bringing you a sandwich." "Well, I guess you're not going to bring a sandwich." "No, I'm not going to bring you a sandwich. Next time you'll get to the dining room on time." And then I stopped, and when I hung up, and I said, what happened that she would think that I'd bring a sandwich over there? If she thinks if that's part of a kind of an entitlement mentality, who created that? It must be me. You know, I start thinking, well, I must have somehow done something to create that sense that she could call and have me drive a sandwich over. I mean, when I was in college, I didn't want the parents anywhere near me in the college shows. So, but that's a good example. I think it's not just that kids are entitled; it's that we have entitled them. We have taken away sometimes the consequences that they would have needed to experience to develop resiliency and some grit. And in the result, they start to expect that parents are going to be there all the time and take care of their various needs. So,
Absolutely. There is much to learn from you about all these things, Dr. Jack, and I'm
yeah.
sure a lot of people would want to connect with you, learn from you, learn about you, learn from your book, especially parents, and
Oh, sure.
perhaps a lot of these young people. So, what's the best way for them to do so?
Well, there's two ways. One would be just to go to my website, which is called parentslettinggo.com. So if that certainly indicates what my focus is on helping parents let go, parentsletgo.com. And then this book is I just published in September, the Parents Launch Code, Loving and Letting Go of Our Kids. So it really
Right.
puts that combination of loving and letting go together as part of the process that parents need to employ. But it's also just a good book about how to build better relationships with your teenager and young adult, and have that be the basis, the foundation for the launching process. So,
Absolutely. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.